The blizzard had transformed Manhattan into a ghost town. Snow fell in thick, relentless sheets, muffling the usual symphony of sirens and car horns that never seemed to sleep. It was nearly 2 a.m. when Sebastian Cross spotted her. A lone figure hunched on a bus stop bench, her medical scrubs barely visible beneath a threadbare jacket. Sebastian had been driving aimlessly through the empty streets, a habit he'd developed during his worst bouts of insomnia. As CEO of Cross Industries, a multinational tech conglomerate he'd built from nothing, sleep often eluded him. But tonight, something made him stop. The woman, he could see now that she was young, probably mid-20s, had golden brown hair plastered to her head with melting snow. Her hands were shoved deep in her pockets, shoulders hunched against the brutal wind. Even from his heated Maserati, he could see she was shivering. Without hesitation, he pulled over and stepped into the storm. "Excuse me," he called out, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "The buses stopped running an hour ago." She looked up, startled. Her eyes were the color of warm honey, wide with a mixture of exhaustion and wariness. I know. I'm just waiting it out." "In a blizzard?" Sebastian moved closer, noting the hospital ID badge clipped to her scrubs. "You'll freeze to death out here." "I'm fine," she insisted, though her voice betrayed her with its trembling. "Really?" Sebastian studied her face, the stubborn set of her jaw, the way she pulled her thin jacket tighter around herself. He recognized that look. It was the same expression he'd worn as a kid, determined to handle everything alone. "I'm Sebastian," he said, extending his hand. "And you are?" She hesitated before answering. Maya Chen." "Well, Maya Chen, I'm not leaving you here to become a human popsicle. My car has heat, real heat, and I can drive you wherever you need to go." Maya shook her head, snow falling from her hair. "I don't know you. For all I know, you could be a serial killer." Sebastian almost smiled. "I suppose that's possible. But I'm also your only way home tonight, unless you're planning to build an igloo." She bit her lip, considering. The wind howled around them, and Sebastian could see her resolve weakening as another violent shiver racked her frame. "Look," he said, pulling off his expensive wool coat and holding it out to her. "Take this. If you won't come with me, at least don't freeze while you're being stubborn." Maya stared at the coat, probably worth more than she made in a month, then at the man offering it. There was something in his dark eyes, something that didn't look like pity or predatory interest. It looked like understanding. Slowly, she reached out and accepted the coat. It was still warm from his body heat and smelled of cedar and something indefinably masculine. The relief was immediate. "Thank you," she whispered. "The offer stands," Sebastian said quietly. "I promise I'm not a psychopath. I just don't want to read about a nurse freezing to death because I was too polite to insist." Maya looked down the empty street, then back at him. Something in his expression, earnest, patient, completely unthreatening, made her decision. "Okay," she said finally, "but I'm keeping your coat as collateral." For the first time all evening, Sebastian smiled. A real smile, not the practiced ones he wore in boardrooms. Deal. The interior of Sebastian's car was like stepping into another world. Heated leather seats, soft classical music playing at barely audible levels, and blessed, wonderful warmth. Maya sank into the passenger seat with a sigh of relief she couldn't suppress. "Where to?" Sebastian asked as he slid behind the wheel. "Brooklyn Heights," Maya replied, then added quickly, "But if it's too far?" "It's not." He put the car in drive and pulled smoothly into the empty street. "What hospital?" "Mount Sinai. I just finished a double shift." She paused, studying his profile in the dashboard light. He had the kind of features that belonged in magazines. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, eyes that seemed to see everything. "What do you do that has you driving around at 2 a.m. in a storm?" "I don't sleep well," he said simply. "Driving helps sometimes." They fell into comfortable silence as the car glided through the snow-covered streets. Maya found herself relaxing for the first time in hours, maybe days. When was the last time someone had taken care of her, even in this small way? "Can I ask you something?" Sebastian's voice broke through her thoughts. "Sure. How long have you been working doubles?" Maya tensed slightly. "What makes you think?" "The way you sat on that bench. Like you'd done it before. And the fact that you're wearing scrubs in a blizzard suggests you didn't exactly plan your commute." She was quiet for a moment. 6 months, she admitted finally. "Ever since my roommate moved out. Rent in the city is impossible," Sebastian finished. especially on a nurse's salary. You seem to know a lot about nursing salaries for someone who drives a Maserati. Sebastian's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. My mother was a nurse. The way he said it, past tense, with careful control, told Maya everything she needed to know. I'm sorry, it was a long time ago. He turned onto her street, surprisingly familiar with the neighborhood. But I remember what those hours did to her. The exhaustion, the way she never complained even when she should have. They pulled up in front of Maya's building, a modest brick structure that had seen better decades. Sebastian put the car in park but made no move to rush her out. Thank you, Maya said, starting to shrug out of his coat. For the ride and the warmth and… Keep it, he interrupted. It looks better on you anyway. Maya stared at him. I can't keep your coat. It probably costs more than my monthly salary. Then consider it a loan. You can return it when the weather improves. She studied his face, looking for an angle, a catch. There wasn't one, just a man who'd gone out of his way to help a stranger, asking for nothing in return. I don't even know your last name, she said. Cross. Sebastian Cross. The name was familiar, though she couldn't quite place it. Someone important, probably. The car, the coat, the easy confidence. It all added up to serious money. Well, Sebastian Cross, I owe you one. You don't owe me anything, he said seriously. Just be careful out there. The city's dangerous enough without adding hypothermia to the mix. Maya climbed out of the car, wrapping his coat tighter around herself. She turned back to say something else, but he was already pulling away, his taillights disappearing into the swirling snow. In her apartment, small, cold, and lonely, Maya hung Sebastian's coat carefully in her closet. She'd return it, of course, eventually. But for now, it was a reminder that kindness still existed in the world, even from perfect strangers. What she didn't know was that Sebastian had circled the block 3 times, waiting until he saw her light come on before finally driving home. 2 weeks passed before Maya saw Sebastian again. She'd thought about him more than she cared to admit. The way he'd appeared like some kind of guardian angel, the careful concern in his voice, the coat that still smelled faintly of him hanging in her closet like a question mark. She was working a late shift at Mount Sinai's emergency department when she spotted him in the waiting room. He was sitting alone, jacket perfectly pressed despite the late hour, reading something on his phone with intense concentration. Maya did a double take, wondering if exhaustion was making her hallucinate. But no, it was definitely Sebastian Cross, looking as out of place in the fluorescent-lit emergency room as a peacock in a parking garage. During her break, she approached him cautiously. Sebastian. He looked up, and his serious expression transformed into something warmer. Maya. I was hoping I might see you here. Are you hurt? She automatically scanned him for signs of injury. No, nothing like that. He stood, sliding his phone into his pocket. I was visiting someone. A business associate had a minor heart attack earlier today. I'm sorry to hear that. Is he okay? He will be. The doctors here are excellent. Sebastian paused, studying her face. You look tired. Maya almost laughed. After 16 hours on her feet, dealing with everything from gunshot wounds to panic attacks, tired was an understatement. Occupational hazard. How's the insomnia? Still winning. He smiled slightly. Though I've been sleeping a little better lately. There was something in the way he said it, something that made Maya's pulse quicken. That's good. They stood there for a moment. 2 people surrounded by the controlled chaos of a hospital emergency room, oddly isolated in their own bubble of conversation. I still have your coat, Maya said finally. I know. You know. Sebastian's cheeks colored slightly. I assumed. Since you haven't… It's been cold lately. Maya studied his face, noting the way he avoided her eyes. Sebastian, have you been checking up on me? Not checking up, he said quickly. I may have asked a few questions. Made sure you were okay. What kind of questions? He ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture that made him look younger, less composed. I may have made a donation to the hospital. A significant one. And I may have mentioned that I was particularly interested in supporting the nursing staff. Maya's eyes widened. You donated money to my hospital? To support patient care, Sebastian corrected. The fact that it might also help with staffing issues and overtime compensation was just a fortunate side effect. Sebastian… Maya didn't know whether to be touched or alarmed. Why would you do that? He was quiet for a long moment, watching the controlled chaos around them. Nurses rushing between rooms, doctors barking orders, families waiting for news about loved ones. Because, he said finally, sometimes the people who spend their lives taking care of others forget to take care of themselves, and sometimes they need someone to take care of them. The weight of his words settled between them. Maya felt something shift in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the heated hospital air. Dr. Chen to Trauma Bay 2. Dr. Chen to Trauma Bay 2. Maya blinked, pulled back to reality by the PA system. I'm not a doctor, she said automatically. Yet, Sebastian said quietly, I looked you up. Full scholarship to nursing school, top of your class, pre-med prerequisites completed. You're planning to apply to medical school. Maya stared at him. How do you possibly know that? I told you, I asked questions. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Why did you stop? Your MCAT scores were excellent. Maya felt her defenses rising. Money, time, life. Take your pick. What if those weren't obstacles anymore? What do you mean? Sebastian reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Not his own. This one was for a medical school admissions counselor at Columbia. I may have mentioned to Dr. Patricia Vance that I knew an exceptional nurse who might be interested in their accelerated program for working professionals, he said. She'd like to meet with you. Maya took the card with trembling fingers. Sebastian, I can't accept this. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything, he interrupted. This is your talent, your dream. I'm just removing a few roadblocks. Why? The question came out as barely a whisper. Why are you doing all this for someone you barely know? Sebastian looked at her for a long moment, his dark eyes intense and searching. Because, he said finally, in 27 years, you're the first person who's made me want to be better than I am. Before Maya could respond, her pager buzzed urgently. She glanced down, trauma incoming, all hands needed. I have to go, she said, torn between duty and the conversation that felt like it was changing everything. I know. Sebastian stepped back, giving her space to leave. Think about it, Maya. The meeting with Dr. Vance. You don't have to decide anything tonight. Maya nodded, still clutching the business card. As she hurried toward the trauma bay, she heard him call after her. And Maya, keep the coat. It was always yours anyway. Maya called Dr. Vance the next day. The meeting was scheduled for the following week at Columbia's medical school campus. Maya had been there before, years ago, when medical school felt like an impossible dream rather than a deferred one. Walking through the halls again felt surreal, like stepping into an alternate version of her life. Dr. Vance was a warm, no-nonsense woman in her 50s who seemed genuinely interested in Maya's background and goals. They talked for over an hour about Maya's experience, her academic record, and the accelerated program designed for working professionals. Your scores and recommendations are excellent, Dr. Vance said, reviewing Maya's file. And your practical experience gives you a significant advantage. Most of our first-year students have never seen the inside of a real hospital. The program sounds incredible, Maya said carefully, but I have to be honest about my financial situation. Between rent and existing student loans. Already taken care of, Dr. Vance interrupted with a smile. You've been awarded the Cross Foundation Fellowship for Healthcare Excellence. Full tuition, plus a living stipend. Maya's heart stopped. The Cross Foundation? It's a new initiative, focused on supporting healthcare workers who want to advance their education. You're actually the first recipient. Dr. Vance leaned forward. Between you and me, the donor was very specific about the selection criteria. He wanted someone with exceptional clinical skills, academic excellence, and I quote, the kind of compassion that can't be taught. Maya felt dizzy. He recommended me specifically? He did. Said you were exactly the kind of person the medical field needs more of. Dr. Vance studied Maya's expression. I take it you know Mr. Cross personally. Maya struggled to find words. I'm not sure what I know anymore. That evening, Maya found herself standing outside the building that housed Cross Industries headquarters. It was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in Midtown, the kind of building that screamed power and success. According to the directory in the lobby, Sebastian's office was on the 42nd floor. She almost lost her nerve 3 times in the elevator. Sebastian's assistant, a polished woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, seemed surprised to see her, but buzzed her through immediately. Mr. Cross, you have a visitor. Sebastian's office was exactly what Maya had expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of Central Park, expensive furniture. walls lined with awards and photos of him with various world leaders and celebrities. What she hadn't expected was the small, slightly faded photograph on his desk. A woman in nurse's scrubs, smiling at the camera with tired but kind eyes. Maya. Sebastian rose from behind his desk, surprise and something else, pleasure, flickering across his face. I wasn't expecting you. I met with Dr. Vance today. Maya held up the folder containing the fellowship information. The Cross Foundation Fellowship. Really, Sebastian? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I take it she explained the program? She explained that some mysterious benefactor thinks I'm worthy of a full ride to medical school, plus living expenses. Maya moved closer to his desk, noting the way his eyes tracked her movement. What she didn't explain is why. Sebastian was quiet for a moment, his gaze shifting to the photograph on his desk. Her name was Elena Cross. She died when I was 12. Maya's anger softened slightly. Your mother. She worked at a free clinic in Queens. 16-hour shifts. Barely made enough to keep our apartment, but she never complained. Not once. Sebastian picked up the photograph, his thumb tracing the edge of the frame. She used to say that healing people was the closest thing to magic she'd ever seen. Sebastian. She wanted to be a doctor, he continued, not looking at Maya. But life got in the way. Teenage pregnancy, no money, no support. She did what she had to do. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. And you see her in me? No. Sebastian looked up then, his dark eyes intense. I see who she could have been, if someone had given her the chance. I see who you could be, if someone gives you the chance. But why you? Why do you care what happens to some nurse you met during a blizzard? Sebastian set down the photograph and moved around the desk toward her. He stopped just close enough that Maya could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Because, he said quietly, that night in the storm was the first time in 15 years that I did something just because it was right, not because it would make me money or give me power or advance some agenda, just because someone needed help and I could help them. Maya felt her breath catch. Sebastian, you made me remember who I used to be, before the money, before the company, before I turned into someone my mother wouldn't recognize. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched her cheek. You made me want to be the kind of man who deserves to know someone like you. The sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability in his eyes. It was too much. Maya felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. I can't accept this, she whispered. The fellowship, the money. It's too much. It's not charity, Maya. It's an investment. Sebastian's thumb brushed across her cheekbone. In 4 years, you're going to be an incredible doctor. You're going to save lives, change lives, make the world better just by being in it. All I'm doing is removing the obstacles that would prevent that from happening. And what do you get out of it? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, his hand still cupping her cheek. The knowledge that I finally did something that would make my mother proud. Maya felt a tear slip down her cheek, and Sebastian caught it with his thumb. There's more, isn't there, to why you're doing this? Sebastian's smile was soft, almost sad. You want the truth? Maya nodded. The truth is that I've been half in love with you since that night in the storm. The truth is that I think about you every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to sleep. The truth is that you've turned my entire world upside down, and I don't care if I never get it back right side up again. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Sebastian, I'm not asking you to feel the same way, he said quickly. I'm not even asking you to see me again if you don't want to. All I'm asking is that you take the fellowship and become the doctor you're meant to be. For yourself, for all the people you're going to help, for my mother, who never got the chance. Maya stared at him, this complicated, generous, impossible man who'd appeared in her life like some kind of fairy tale. And if I say yes, to the fellowship, I mean, then you start classes in the fall, and I'll stay out of your way unless you want me in it. And if I say no, Sebastian's smile was rueful, then I'll respect your decision and find some other way to honor my mother's memory. Maya was quiet for a long moment, her mind spinning. The practical part of her brain was screaming that this was too good to be true, that there had to be a catch. But the part of her that had been dreaming of medical school since she was 8 years old was singing. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course. Sebastian stepped back, giving her space. Take all the time you need. Maya headed for the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. Sebastian? Yes? That night in the storm. Did you know? Who I was, I mean. Where I worked? Sebastian shook his head. I just saw someone who needed help. Maya nodded, something settling in her chest. Good. That's good. As she left his office, Maya caught sight of her reflection in the elevator's polished doors. She was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. Maybe fairy tales were possible after all. Maya didn't give Sebastian her answer right away. Instead, she spent the next 2 weeks turning the opportunity over in her mind, like a puzzle piece she couldn't quite fit into place. She researched the fellowship, talked to current medical students, even visited the Columbia campus again to sit in on a lecture. Everything about it was perfect. Too perfect. She was working a night shift at Mount Sinai when she finally understood what was bothering her. It was 3 a.m., and she was checking on Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who'd been admitted with pneumonia. The woman was awake, staring at the ceiling with the kind of hollow look that came from too many nights and too many hospital beds. Can't sleep? Maya asked softly, checking the woman's IV. Too much thinking. Mrs. Rodriguez replied in accented English. My grandson, he wants to pay for me to go to this fancy nursing home. Says it's better for me, that I'll be happier. But you don't want to go? Is not about wanting. Mrs. Rodriguez turned to look at Maya. Is about owing. When someone gives you everything, what do you have left that's yours? Maya felt something click into place in her chest. What if they're giving it because they care about you? Then is even harder to say no. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled sadly. But sometimes, mija, saying no is the only way to say yes to yourself. Maya finished her rounds in a daze, Mrs. Rodriguez's words echoing in her head. By the time her shift ended at 7 a.m., she knew what she had to do. She found Sebastian at his usual morning coffee shop, a small place in the financial district that opened early for the Wall Street crowd. He was sitting at a corner table reading the paper and looking like he hadn't slept. When he saw her, his face lit up with hope and wariness in equal measure. Maya, I wasn't expecting you. I know. She slid into the seat across from him, noting the way his hands stilled on his coffee cup. I wanted to talk to you about the fellowship. Of course. Sebastian folded his newspaper carefully, giving her his full attention. Have you made a decision? I have. Maya took a deep breath. I can't accept it. Sebastian's face went very still. May I ask why? Because it's not mine. Maya struggled to find the right words. The opportunity, the money, the chance, none of it's mine. It's yours. Your gift, your agenda, your way of honoring your mother. Maya, I'm not finished. She held up a hand, surprised by her own firmness. I've been thinking about what you said, about removing obstacles. But obstacles aren't always bad things, Sebastian. Sometimes they're what make us strong. Sometimes struggling for something is what makes it worth having. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. So that's it? You're saying no? I'm saying no to the fellowship, Maya clarified. But I'm not saying no to everything. Hope flickered in Sebastian's expression. What do you mean? Maya reached across the table and took his hand, noting how his fingers automatically intertwined with hers. I mean that I want to apply to medical school on my own terms. I want to take out loans and work part-time and struggle through it like everyone else. I want to earn it. And if you don't get in, if the financial burden is too much, then I'll try again next year. And the year after that, if I have to. Maya squeezed his hand. But I need to know that when I graduate, if I graduate, it's because I did it myself. Sebastian was quiet for a long time, his thumb tracing patterns on the back of her hand. Finally, he smiled. A real smile, soft and proud. My mother would have said the same thing, he said quietly. Would she have? She turned down help more times than I can count. Pride, she called it. I used to think it was stubborn and stupid. Sebastian lifted their joined hands and pressed a gentle kiss to Maya's knuckles. Now I think it might have been the strongest thing about her. Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. So you understand? I understand. Sebastian paused. But I reserve the right to worry about you anyway. I can live with that. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands linked across the small table, watching the city wake up outside the coffee shop window. Maya? Sebastian's voice was careful. You said you weren't saying no to everything. What did you mean? Maya felt her cheeks warm. I meant that maybe we could try this again. Getting to know each other, I mean. Without fellowships or foundations or any kind of grand gestures. Just us. Just us. Sebastian repeated, like he was testing the words. I'm not sure I remember how to be just me. Maya smiled. Then I guess we'll both be learning something new. Sebastian lifted their joined hands again, this time pressing Maya's palm against his cheek. I'd like that. More than you know. Good. Maya stood, reluctantly pulling her hand free. I have to get home and sleep before my next shift. But Sebastian? Yes? Ask me out properly this time. Not as a benefactor or a rescue mission. Just as Sebastian. Sebastian's smile was brilliant. Maya Chen, would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? I'd love to. As Maya walked away, she heard Sebastian call after her. Maya? She turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be an incredible doctor. Fellowship or no fellowship. Maya's smile could have powered the entire city. Ask me again in 4 years. Their first official date was nothing like what Maya had expected. Instead of some exclusive restaurant or Broadway show, Sebastian picked her up in a modest sedan, not the Maserati, and drove them to a small Italian place in Queens. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths and family photos on the walls, where the owner knew every customer's name. My mother used to bring me here, Sebastian explained as they were seated at a corner table. After her shifts at the clinic, it was the only restaurant she could afford, but she always made it feel special. Maya looked around at the warm, unpretentious atmosphere and felt something settle in her chest. It's perfect. Over plates of homemade pasta and cheap red wine, they talked about everything except money and medical school. Maya learned that Sebastian played piano. Badly, he insisted, that he was afraid of heights despite living on the 42nd floor, and that he'd read every Harry Potter book at least 3 times. Sebastian discovered that Maya spoke fluent Mandarin, had wanted to be a veterinarian before switching to human medicine, and could make origami cranes with her eyes closed. My grandmother taught me, Maya explained, folding her cloth napkin into a perfect bird. She said it was good for steady hands and a quiet mind. Both useful for a doctor, Sebastian observed. Maya smiled. That's what she said. When Sebastian walked her to her door at the end of the night, he didn't try to kiss her. Instead, he took her hand and said, I had a wonderful time. So did I. Would you like to do this again? Maya pretended to consider. Are you going to keep taking me to places that meant something to your mother? Sebastian looked embarrassed. I hadn't really thought about it, but maybe. Is that weird? It's perfect, Maya said softly. I'd love to see the world through her eyes. Their second date was to the free clinic in Queens where Elena Cross had worked. It had been updated and expanded since Sebastian's childhood, but the core mission remained the same, providing health care to people who couldn't afford it anywhere else. I've been funding them for years, Sebastian admitted as they watched a young doctor examine a homeless man with infinite patience, but I'd never actually visited until today. Maya watched him watching the clinic, seeing the wonder and sadness warring in his expression. What do you think she'd say about it? That there's still too much need and not enough help? Sebastian paused. But that every person helped matters. Maya made a decision that surprised even her. I want to volunteer here. Sebastian turned to her. Really? 1 day a week, when I'm not working at Mount Sinai. I know it won't be much, but it would be everything. Sebastian interrupted softly. To the people you help, it would be everything. Their third date was to the cemetery where Elena Cross was buried. Maya had been nervous about this one. It felt intensely personal, maybe too personal for whatever they were building together. But Sebastian had asked so quietly, so hesitantly, that she couldn't refuse. Elena's grave was simple but well maintained, with fresh flowers that Sebastian clearly placed regularly. Maya hung back as he knelt to replace the old bouquet with new white roses. Hi, Mom, he said quietly. I brought someone to meet you. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She approached slowly and knelt beside Sebastian on the soft grass. She was beautiful, Maya said, noting the photograph embedded in the headstone. Elena had the same dark eyes as her son, the same serious expression that could transform into warmth without warning. She would have loved you, Sebastian said. She always said the best people were the ones who chose to help others, even when it cost them something. Maya touched the headstone gently. I wish I could have met her. In a way you have. Every time you stay late to comfort a patient, every time you fight for someone who can't fight for themselves, that's her. That's the best part of what she taught me. They sat together in comfortable silence as the sun set over the Queen's skyline. When they finally left, Maya slipped her hand into Sebastian's. It felt like a promise. Over the following months, they built something real together. Maya started volunteering at the Queen's Clinic, finding that the work filled a part of her soul she hadn't known was empty. Sebastian began sleeping better, the chronic insomnia that had plagued him for years finally beginning to ease. They spent evenings cooking together in Sebastian's penthouse kitchen, Maya teaching him how to make her grandmother's dumplings while he attempted to recreate his mother's famous, to him, chocolate chip cookies. They were terrible at it, but Maya had never laughed so hard in her life. Sebastian started leaving small gifts for Maya, not expensive jewelry or designer clothes, but thoughtful things. A first edition of her favorite novel, a cashmere scarf in the exact shade of blue she'd mentioned liking, a coffee mug with a cartoon nurse on it that made her smile every morning. Maya gave Sebastian things money couldn't buy: quiet evenings without business calls, massages when his shoulders were tight with stress, the kind of comfortable silence that only came with truly knowing someone. 6 months into their relationship, Maya got accepted to medical school, not Columbia. She'd applied to several state schools with more affordable tuition. The acceptance letter from SUNY Downstate came on a Thursday morning, and Maya called Sebastian immediately. "I got in," she said, her voice shaking with excitement and terror in equal measure. "Maya, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "The loans, the workload, trying to balance everything." "You can do this," Sebastian said firmly. "I know you can, and I'll be here to help, however you'll let me." That evening, Sebastian cooked dinner, successfully for once, and they celebrated with champagne and take-out Chinese food on his living room floor. 4 years, Maya said, leaning against Sebastian's shoulder. 4 years of studying and exams and residency applications. 4 years of becoming Dr. Maya Chen, Sebastian corrected. "It has a nice ring to it." Maya turned to study his profile. "Are you sure you're ready for this? Dating a broke medical student who'll be studying constantly?" Sebastian set down his champagne and turned to face her fully. "Maya, I spent 15 years building a company that makes more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But the happiest I've ever been is these past 6 months, eating terrible homemade cookies and watching you light up when you talk about your patients." He took her hands in his voice soft and serious. "I don't care if you're a medical student or a brain surgeon or decide tomorrow that you want to become a professional origami artist. I just want to be wherever you are." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. "Sebastian, I love you, Maya Chen. I love your stubbornness and your compassion and the way you make everything better just by being in it. I love that you turned down my fellowship because you needed to earn your own way. I love that you see the best in everyone, including me." Maya's heart felt like it might burst. "I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes." Sebastian cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears she didn't realize were falling. "Don't be scared. We'll figure it out together." When he kissed her, it tasted like champagne and promises and the beginning of forever. Medical school was everything Maya had expected and nothing she was prepared for. The workload was crushing, the competition fierce, and the financial pressure constant despite her careful budgeting. There were nights when she fell asleep over her anatomy textbooks, mornings when she questioned every decision that had led her to this point. Sebastian kept his promise to support her however she'd let him. He never offered money directly, knowing she'd refuse, but he found other ways to help. Study snacks that appeared in her locker at school, a comfortable chair delivered to her tiny apartment for long study sessions, a car service on nights when she was too exhausted to safely take the subway home. "You're being sneaky again," Maya accused one evening, finding a bag of her favorite Chinese takeout waiting on her kitchen counter. Sebastian, who was sprawled on her couch grading papers from a business ethics course he'd started teaching at NYU, looked up with feigned innocence. "I have no idea what you mean. The food didn't order itself. Maybe you have a secret admirer." Maya dropped down beside him, stealing a spring roll from the bag. "My secret admirer has excellent taste and apparently knows my schedule better than I do. Lucky you." Sebastian wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her against his side. "How was the anatomy practical?" "Brutal. I think I mixed up the ulnar and radial nerves on question 15. You'll be fine. You always think you did worse than you actually did." Maya snuggled deeper into his embrace, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. These quiet evenings together had become her anchor, the thing that kept her sane when everything else felt chaotic. "Sebastian? What are we doing?" He stilled slightly. "What do you mean?" Maya sat up to look at him properly. I mean, what is this? Us? I'm going to be in school for 4 more years, then residency for at least 3 after that. I'll be working 100-hour weeks, making barely enough to survive. She gestured around his luxurious apartment, visible through her window across the courtyard where he'd rented a place to be closer to her. You're you, successful, established, ready for the next phase of life. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes serious. Are you asking me what my intentions are, Dr. Chen? Maybe I am. Sebastian shifted to face her fully, taking her hands in his. My intentions are to love you through every late-night study session, every exam, every moment of doubt. My intentions are to celebrate with you when you match into your residency program, and again when you finish, and again when you save your first life as an attending physician. Maya's breath caught. Sebastian, my intentions, he continued, his voice soft but firm, are to spend the rest of my life watching you become the incredible doctor I know you'll be, and feeling grateful every day that you let me be part of the journey. Tears sprang to Maya's eyes. That's a long time to wait for someone to have time for a real relationship. Then it's a good thing I'm a patient man. Sebastian brought her hands to his lips, pressing gentle kisses to her knuckles. Maya, I don't need you to be available for dinner parties and charity galas. I don't need you to be anything other than exactly who you are. All I need is to know that when you have 5 minutes between studying and sleeping, you might want to spend them with me. Maya threw her arms around his neck, holding him tight. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. Sebastian's voice was muffled against her hair. You deserve someone who sees how extraordinary you are, even when you're too tired to see it yourself. That night, Maya fell asleep in Sebastian's arms on her tiny couch, her anatomy textbook open on the coffee table, and for the first time in months, she didn't have nightmares about failing her exams. Not everything was perfect. Maya's second year of medical school brought new challenges that tested both her resolve and their relationship in ways she hadn't anticipated. The breaking point came during her surgery rotation. Maya was working 18-hour days at the hospital, barely sleeping, running on caffeine and determination. She was losing weight, snapping at classmates, and had missed 3 consecutive dates with Sebastian. This is insane, Sebastian said one evening, finding Maya hunched over her kitchen table at 2 a.m., practicing suturing techniques on a piece of pigskin. When's the last time you slept? I slept, Maya mumbled, not looking up from her stitches. Tuesday, I think. Maya, that was 4 days ago. I'm fine. Her hand shook slightly as she attempted another suture. Damn it. Sebastian knelt beside her chair, gently taking the needle from her trembling fingers. You're not fine. You're exhausted. I can't afford to be exhausted. Maya's voice cracked. Do you know what the statistics are for women in surgery? Do you know how hard I have to work just to prove I belong here? I know, but you won't prove anything if you collapse from exhaustion. Maya finally looked at him, and Sebastian was shocked by what he saw. Her eyes were bloodshot, her cheeks hollow, her usually vibrant spirit dimmed to barely a flicker. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Everyone else seems to have it figured out, and I'm just drowning. Sebastian pulled her into his arms, holding her as she finally let herself break down. Hey, it's okay. You're going to be okay. What if I'm not cut out for this? What if I gave up everything for a dream that's too big for me? Then you'd still be the same person who works double shifts to help people, who volunteers at a free clinic on her day off, who turned down a full scholarship because she needed to earn her own way. Sebastian pulled back to cup her face in his hands. Maya, you're not failing. You're learning. There's a difference. I feel like I'm failing you too, Maya said quietly. We barely see each other anymore. You deserve someone who can actually be present in a relationship. Sebastian's expression softened. Is that what you think? That I'm here for some perfect version of you? Maya shrugged, unable to meet his eyes. Maya, look at me. When she did, Sebastian's voice was gentle but firm. I fell in love with you in a hospital emergency room at 3 a.m. when you looked like you hadn't slept in days. I fell in love with your dedication, your passion, your refusal to give up even when things get impossible. Did you think that would change just because we're together now? I don't want you to get tired of waiting for me. Sebastian was quiet for a moment, then stood and walked to his jacket. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Maya's heart stopped. Sebastian, what? Relax, he said, with a slight smile. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box to reveal not a ring but a small silver locket. This was my mother's. She wore it through nursing school, through every difficult shift, through all the times when she wanted to give up but didn't. He lifted the locket from the box, and Maya saw that it opened to reveal a tiny photo of young Sebastian with his mother. She used to say that when things got overwhelming, she'd touch this and remember why she was doing it all. Sebastian fastened the chain around Maya's neck, his fingers gentle at her nape. "I want you to have it. Not because I think you need it, but because I think she'd want you to have it." Maya touched the locket, feeling the weight of it against her chest. "Sebastian, I can't take this. It's too precious. It's supposed to be precious. That's the point." Sebastian cupped her face again. "Maya, I'm not going anywhere. Not when things get hard, not when you're too busy to see me for weeks, not when you doubt yourself. I'm here for all of it." Maya felt fresh tears spring to her eyes. "Even if I turn into a crazy surgical resident who forgets to eat and talks to herself while practicing procedures. Especially then." Sebastian's smile was soft and sure. "Though I reserve the right to occasionally force-feed you and remind you that you're talking out loud." Maya laughed despite her tears. "I love you. So much. I love you too. All of you. The confident parts and the scared parts and the parts that are too stubborn to ask for help." Sebastian pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Now come on. You're going to eat something, take a shower, and sleep for at least 6 hours. But my suturing practice will still be there tomorrow. The pigskin isn't going anywhere." As Sebastian led her toward the bathroom, Maya touched the locket again. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. Maya's third year of medical school brought a new challenge neither of them had anticipated. Dr. Marcus Webb. Dr. Webb was the chief of surgery at Maya's rotation hospital, a brilliant surgeon in his early 40s with a reputation for being demanding, exacting, and utterly dedicated to his craft. He was also handsome in a distinguished way that made the nursing staff flutter and the female medical students compete for his attention. Maya had been trying to avoid that competition entirely, focusing on her work and trying to stay under the radar. But Dr. Webb noticed her anyway. "Ms. Chen," he said after a particularly complex surgery where Maya had assisted, "excellent work today. Your suturing technique is improving significantly." "Thank you, Dr. Webb. I'm putting together a research team for a new minimally invasive cardiac procedure. I'd like you to consider joining us." Maya blinked, stunned. Research opportunities with Dr. Webb were legendary. Career-making, the kind of thing that could open doors to the most competitive residency programs. Yes, sir. I'd be honored." "Excellent. We'll be working closely together over the next several months. I think you'll find it quite educational." There was something in the way he said it, something in the way his eyes lingered on her face, that made Maya slightly uncomfortable, but she pushed the feeling aside. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. The research project was everything Maya had hoped for, and more. Dr. Webb was a brilliant teacher, patient with her questions and generous with his knowledge. The work was challenging and important, and Maya found herself staying later and later at the hospital, absorbed in data analysis and surgical planning. Sebastian noticed the change immediately. "You seem different," he said one evening when Maya finally made it home at nearly midnight. Excited about something. Maya told him about the research opportunity, about Dr. Webb's praise, about the potential for publication and prestigious residency matches. Sebastian listened quietly, his expression unreadable. "That's wonderful," he said finally. "I'm proud of you." But something in his tone made Maya look at him more closely. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. It's just—" Sebastian paused, choosing his words carefully. "Dr. Webb has quite a reputation. As a surgeon, yes, he's brilliant. As a surgeon, yes, and as someone who's been through 3 divorces and has a habit of becoming involved with his students." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Sebastian, that's gossip. And even if it weren't, it has nothing to do with me. I'm sure it doesn't. I just want you to be careful." "Careful of what?" "Of advancing my career, of working with one of the best surgeons in the city. Careful of someone who might have ulterior motives for singling you out." Maya stood up abruptly, anger flashing in her eyes. "I can't believe you just said that. You think the only reason he'd want to work with me is because he's interested in me romantically? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. God, Sebastian, I thought you of all people would understand that I earned this opportunity. You did earn it." "Maya, that's not— I need some air." Maya grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. "I'll see you later." Sebastian didn't follow her, and somehow that made it worse. Over the next few weeks, the tension between them grew. Maya threw herself into her research with Dr. Webb, spending long hours at the hospital and coming home exhausted and defensive. Sebastian tried to be supportive, but Maya could see the worry in his eyes every time she mentioned working late with Dr. Webb. The situation came to a head 3 weeks later. Maya was in Dr. Webb's office, reviewing surgical footage from their latest procedure, when he moved his chair closer to hers. Too close. "You have excellent instincts, Maya," he said, his voice lower than usual. "I think we work very well together." His hand landed on her thigh, and Maya froze. "Dr. Webb." "Marcus, please." "I think we're past formalities, don't you?" His hand moved higher, and Maya shot to her feet. "I should go. It's late, and I have early rounds tomorrow." Dr. Webb stood as well, moving closer. "Maya, I think there's something special between us. Something worth exploring. Dr. Webb, I'm in a relationship, a serious one." His smile was condescending. "With Sebastian Cross, yes, I know. But Maya, he's not in our world. He doesn't understand the demands of medicine, the passion required to excel at this level. I do." Maya backed toward the door, her heart pounding. "I need to leave. Think about what I'm offering you, Maya. Not just professionally, but personally. I could mentor you, guide your career, help you become the surgeon you're meant to be." His eyes traveled down her body in a way that made her skin crawl. "We could be quite a team." Maya practically ran from his office. She drove aimlessly for an hour before finally heading home, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. She found Sebastian in his study, working late as usual. When he looked up and saw her face, he immediately stood. "Maya? What's wrong?" And suddenly all the anger and defensiveness crumbled. Maya burst into tears, and Sebastian was across the room in seconds, pulling her into his arms. "He made a pass at me," she sobbed into his chest. "You were right and I was stupid, and he made a pass at me." Sebastian's arms tightened around her, and she felt the tension in his body. "Did he hurt you?" "No. I left as soon as I could." "But, Sebastian, the research project, my career, is not more important than your safety and dignity." Sebastian pulled back to look at her, his eyes fierce. "Maya, I don't care about your career prospects. I care about you. But if I report him, or if I drop out of the project, then we'll deal with the consequences, together." Sebastian cupped her face in his hands. "Maya, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you feel like I didn't believe in your abilities. I do believe in them. That's why I was worried. Because I knew someone like him would notice how brilliant you are and might try to take advantage." Maya leaned into his touch. "I should have listened to you." "No, you should have followed your instincts, which you did. You recognized the situation for what it was and got out safely. That's all that matters." That night, Maya fell asleep in Sebastian's arms, feeling safer than she had in weeks. The next morning, she withdrew from Dr. Webb's research project, citing schedule conflicts. She never told anyone the real reason, but somehow word got around anyway. 3 months later, Dr. Webb was quietly asked to take a sabbatical following multiple complaints from female students and residents. Maya's career didn't suffer. If anything, other faculty members seemed to respect her more for stepping away from the high-profile project. She found new research opportunities, better mentors, and a clearer understanding of her own worth. But more importantly, she and Sebastian emerged from the crisis stronger than before. They'd weathered their first real test as a couple, and come through it together. "I'm sorry I doubted your motives," Maya said one evening, curled up against Sebastian's side on their couch. "I'm sorry I made you feel like I didn't trust your judgment," Sebastian replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "We're quite a team," Maya said, echoing Dr. Webb's words but giving them entirely different meaning. "Yes," Sebastian agreed softly. "We are." Maya's 4th year of medical school brought the stress of residency applications, board exams, and the looming uncertainty of match day. She was applying for internal medicine residencies across the country, with her top choice being a program at Mount Sinai, the same hospital where she'd worked as a nurse. Sebastian had been unusually quiet about her potential move, supporting her applications without discussing what it might mean for them if she matched somewhere far from New York. Maya appreciated his support, but she could see the worry he tried to hide. The morning of match day arrived gray and drizzling, perfect weather for Maya's nervous mood. She was supposed to find out at noon where she'd be spending the next 3 years of her life. Sebastian had taken the day off work, something he never did, and was making an elaborate breakfast when Maya stumbled into the kitchen at 9 a.m. "Pancakes?" she asked, noting the spread on the counter. "It's not Sunday. It's match day," Sebastian replied, flipping a perfect golden circle. "That's more important than Sunday." Maya wrapped her arms around his waist from behind, pressing her face against his back. "What if I don't match anywhere good? What if I end up in rural Montana or something? Then you'll be the best doctor rural Montana has ever seen." Sebastian covered her hands with his. "And I'll buy a very warm coat." Maya pulled back to look at him. "Sebastian, we need to talk about this. If I match somewhere far away, we'll figure it out." Sebastian turned in her arms, his expression serious. "Maya, I know we haven't talked about the future in concrete terms, but I want you to know that wherever you go, I want to go too. If you'll have me." Maya's heart did a small flip. "You'd leave New York? Leave your company? I'd leave anything for you." Sebastian cupped her face gently. "But let's see where you match first before we plan our cross-country move." At 11:55 a.m., Maya sat at her computer with Sebastian beside her, both of them staring at the email that would determine their future. At exactly noon, Maya clicked the link. She stared at the screen for a long moment, not saying anything. "Maya?" Sebastian's voice was careful. "What does it say?" "Mount Sinai," Maya whispered. "Internal medicine at Mount Sinai." Sebastian whooped and swept her up in his arms, spinning her around the kitchen. "Maya, you did it. You got your first choice." "I can't believe it." Maya laughed, tears streaming down her face. "I'm going to be a doctor at Mount Sinai, where it all started." "Where we started," Sebastian corrected, setting her down and kissing her thoroughly. That evening, Sebastian suggested they celebrate at the small Italian restaurant in Queens, where they'd had their first date. Maya agreed, though she was surprised when they arrived to find the place apparently empty except for the owner, who greeted them warmly and led them to their usual corner table. "Slow night?" Maya asked, looking around at the deserted dining room. "Something like that," Sebastian replied, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Dinner was perfect. The same pasta dishes they'd shared 2 years ago. The same cheap red wine that had tasted like possibility. They talked about Maya's residency, about their future, about all the dreams that suddenly seemed within reach. When dessert arrived, tiramisu they hadn't ordered, Maya found a small velvet box nestled beside her fork. Her heart stopped. "Sebastian," she whispered. Sebastian slid out of his chair and onto one knee beside the table, his dark eyes bright with emotion. "Maya Chen, 2.5 years ago. You got into my car during a blizzard and changed my entire life." Maya's hands flew to her mouth, tears already starting to fall. "You made me want to be better than I was. You taught me how to love someone more than myself. You showed me that the best things in life aren't things you can buy. They're things you earn and fight for and choose every single day." Sebastian opened the box to reveal a stunning but understated diamond ring, classic and elegant without being ostentatious. "I know you have 3 years of residency ahead of you. I know there will be 100-hour weeks and sleepless nights and moments when you wonder if you can do it all. But Maya, I want to be there for all of it. I want to celebrate your victories and hold you through your defeats. I want to be your person, the way you've become mine." Maya was crying openly now, her whole body shaking with emotion. "Maya Chen, will you marry me?" "Yes," Maya sobbed, launching herself out of her chair and into his arms. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." Sebastian slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands, and Maya noted through her tears that it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Sebastian never did anything halfway. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I love you so much." "I love you too, Dr. Chen." Sebastian's smile was radiant. "My brilliant, stubborn, incredible fiancé." As they kissed in the empty restaurant, surrounded by the ghosts of all their shared meals and conversations, Maya thought about the night Sebastian had found her at that bus stop. She'd been freezing and exhausted and certain she'd have to figure everything out alone. Now she was engaged to the love of her life, about to start her dream career, and she'd never have to face anything alone again. Sometimes, Maya thought, the best rescues were the ones you never saw coming. 5 years later, Dr. Maya Cross finished her rounds at Mount Sinai at exactly 6 p.m., a rarity during her chief residency year. She was looking forward to a quiet evening at home with Sebastian, maybe ordering takeout and falling asleep on the couch while he graded papers from his business ethics course. What she found instead was a trail of white roses leading from their front door to the living room, where Sebastian waited with champagne and a familiar velvet box. "Sebastian Cross," Maya said suspiciously. "What are you up to?" He smiled, the same smile that had made her fall in love with him in a hospital emergency room 4 years ago. "Happy anniversary, Dr. Cross." Maya looked at the date on her phone and gasped. In the chaos of her residency schedule, she'd completely forgotten that today marked exactly 5 years since the night Sebastian had found her at that bus stop. "I can't believe I forgot," she said, guilt washing over her. "You've been saving lives," Sebastian said, pulling her into his arms. "I think that's a pretty good excuse." Maya opened the velvet box to find not jewelry, but a key. "What's this for?" "Your wedding present. A little early since we're not getting married until you finish residency, but I couldn't wait." Sebastian's eyes were bright with excitement. "It's for the free clinic." "What free clinic?" "The one we're opening together. In Queens, 3 blocks from where my mother worked. It's fully funded, fully staffed, and just waiting for its medical director." Sebastian paused. "If you want it." Maya stared at him, tears filling her eyes. "Sebastian, we can't afford." "We can afford it. I've been planning this for 2 years, setting aside money, working with architects and medical suppliers. Maya, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Build something meaningful with you." Maya threw her arms around his neck, the key clutched tightly in her hand. "Yes, yes, of course yes. There's more," Sebastian said, his voice muffled against her hair. "I've been talking to the hospital administration. They're interested in a partnership program where residents can do rotations at the clinic. You could help train the next generation of doctors while serving the community." Maya pulled back to look at him, wonder in her eyes. "You've thought of everything. I've had 5 years to think about it. Ever since the night I realized that picking you up in that storm was the smartest thing I'd ever done." They spent the evening looking at architectural plans and staffing proposals, dreaming about the lives they'd touch and the difference they'd make. As Maya fell asleep in Sebastian's arms, she thought about the scared, exhausted nurse who'd almost turned down a ride from a stranger 5 years ago. That woman could never have imagined this life, engaged to her best friend, pursuing her dream career, about to open a clinic that would help thousands of people. But then again, the best dreams were always the ones you never dared to dream. Sometimes, Maya had learned, being rescued was just the beginning of the story. The real magic happened in all the days that came after, when 2 people chose to keep rescuing each other over and over again. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that person becomes your home.